Broadcasting live from Lothal. Good morning, Lothal. It's the Unofficial Star Wars Rebels podcast.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back once again to Good Morning Lothal, the Unofficial Star Wars Rebels podcast. I'm your host, Pete Salas, along with
Rolando Zamora.
How we doing, Rolly?
I'm good. I'm a little bit under the weather, but like we always say, powering through. Got up early, saw this great episode, ready to record. And, you know, if you guys hear me sneeze or breathe, or if I just sound different today in general, bear with me. Maybe, if anything, I think it usually makes me sound better.
I was going to say, it's there's a phenomenon called sexy phlegm that when you're you're a little under the weather. You know,
well, it doesn't feel sexy, but hopefully if it makes my voice sound more radio-like for one episode, then I guess it'll be worth it.
It's all good, man. So, like you said, we're here for the love of Star Wars, and today's episode of Rebels is Season 2, Episode 7. It's called Wings of the Master. Wings of the Master. But before we get to anything else, let's do a little housekeeping. Right off the top, going to ask you guys to like, share, subscribe, and rate. But you already know that. But more importantly, for this episode, Rolly and I would like to tell you guys that for the next 2 weeks, we will be off as far as our production schedule. Rolly's going out of town next weekend, and I'm going out of town the weekend after, which is when we record. So, unfortunately, that means that, let me bring up my handy-dandy calendar. The next episode after this one will be on September 30th. September 30th will be the next time that an episode drops for you guys. Okay? So just wanted to give you guys that heads up. If you're looking for us the next 2 weeks, you're not going to find us, but that is a perfect time to, if you're new to us, to go and search the archives and check out some of our older episodes and get to love us from the beginning, if you would. Anything you want to add to that, Rolly?
Yeah, exactly what you said. If you guys are new to our channel, by all means go back and watch some of the episodes. In fact, if you're Rebels enthusiast, then you know that there's some key episodes that you like to discuss or hear analysis over. We've already reviewed a bunch. By all means go check it out and drop us some comments. You know, I'm up for answering and talking about previous episodes. And for all my Instagram followers out there on my page that are watching my story every single time I post a new episode drops and you're not following us, go follow us.
Yes, please.
Because I see you guys. I see you. I see a lot of people watching. They follow the story. Come on, just go out there and give us a sub on YouTube or listen to us on your favorite podcast channel.
Right. Exactly.
We would appreciate it.
Appreciate it very much. So before we get to this week's episode, Rolly, what's happening around the galaxy?
Let's see what's happening this week in Star Wars.
So this week we got some good news, or rather some commentary on some current Star Wars, or some upcoming Star Wars rather. First and foremost, we actually had Dave Filoni give an interview on a podcast recently regarding the new upcoming live action Ahsoka series. And he actually, the main headline that's been running around this weekend is that Dave Filoni says that the new Ahsoka show is everything he had hoped for. So I took a quote from that interview, and just to read it for you guys, Dave Filoni says this: "Oh, it's fantastic. I mean, it's everything I could hope for. I never dreamed of running a live action series as I was learning over the years. But to have a character that's just come up over the years with a lot of fans as they've grown up, and now she's at the point where we can do this, it's wonderful to be this same person guiding it across different mediums. I think lends a consistency to the character that's very uncommon. A lot of times when you're an animator, you watch your creation kind of spin off and it's taken by other people, but you never know. And you will want to take care of these characters because you know them so well, and it's a really unique situation we're in, but it's awesome. There's no other way to put it. The simple answer is just, yes, it's awesome." And, I couldn't have said it better myself. I thank Dave Filoni and George Lucas equally for, basically creating Ahsoka, who is my favorite, without a doubt, character in the Star Wars universe. And it's really cool how Dave Filoni, this guy started on Avatar: The Last Airbender as an animator, and he was hired by George Lucas, and they co-created Ahsoka. And it's just so awesome that so many years later, he's now guiding his child, so to say, right, into live action. And I know you Rebels fans out there are equally as excited as I am to not only see Ahsoka in her own show, but to see a continuation of what is basically Rebels here in the new upcoming live action Ahsoka show.
Right.
What are your thoughts on that, Pete?
No, I hadn't seen this quote or anything. I didn't even know that he was on a podcast. I might want to look it up later. Maybe you can tell me what podcast he was on. Yeah, I was actually thinking about the Ahsoka live action show right before we started, because I was thinking back to watching Rogue One and where they mentioned Hera. I was just curious because I know that she's going to be in it, but an actress has not been cast as Hera yet, right? Or at least it hasn't been announced who's going to play her.
Yeah, so they're already filming. They might be done for all intents and purposes, and we just haven't heard. But there was a bit of a teaser at Star Wars Celebration, and they showed Hera in one of the shots. So, but they have not named who exactly is playing her. So that's something that I'm really looking forward to finding out, particularly after we saw this episode today of Rebels, which is a Hera featured episode. It makes me more excited to find out who's playing Hera, because Hera is such an awesome character in Rebels.
Yeah, I was curious about that too. But no, that's really cool, and I really love the fact that Dave Filoni's getting a chance to actually direct a live action series. I mean, it's long overdue, considering how long he's already been. You know, we call him Saint Filoni for a reason, you know, because he's awesome, man. We wouldn't be, this podcast wouldn't exist without him. Let's just put it that way. So
yeah, absolutely. Really cool. If I can credit one single person to rejuvenating my Star Wars fandom, it's definitely Dave Filoni. Right. So in other news in the Star Wars galaxy, we also had some commentary from the Last Jedi director, Rian Johnson, and he basically reflected on Last Jedi 5 years after the release, speaking with Empire magazine. And to quote him, he comes out and says, "I'm even more proud of it 5 years on. When I was up at bat, I really swung at the ball. I think it's impossible for any of us to approach Star Wars without thinking about it as a myth that we were raised with, and how that myth, that story, baked itself into us and affected us. The ultimate intent was not to strip away. The intent was to get to the basic fundamental power of myth. And ultimately, I hope the film is an affirmation of the power of the myth of Star Wars in our lives." And then he also went on to speak about the controversy, regarding the portrayal of Luke Skywalker as a hermit. And he simply mentioned, "The final images of the movie to me are not deconstructing the myth of Luke Skywalker. They're building it, and they're embracing it with him." I think I kind of misquoted that a bit at the end. Sorry, guys. But yeah, as you guys know, I'm such a huge fan of this film. It's the most controversial Star Wars film that has been made to date. But I kind of specifically touching on the point he mentions about Luke Skywalker, that's kind of how I've seen Luke. I just feel like the hermit Luke, regardless of what people think, or even Mark Hamill himself saying Luke Skywalker would never do that, I don't think that's necessarily true. I don't think that we can project, like, when we're older, how are we going to act? Right. And I think I see that in the Luke Skywalker character. Like, Luke Skywalker, in my opinion, expected so much of himself when he was recreating the Jedi Order that I don't think he really could foresee, the failures that would come along with it. And I think emotion gets the best of us, even in the Jedi Order. And in the moments, we don't necessarily do what's right. But what I love about Last Jedi is Luke Skywalker does ultimately do the right thing. He brings, he's brought back to Earth, so to say, by Rey, who reminds him of who he is and that he didn't fail Kylo Ren. And I just love the ending that they give Luke Skywalker in that film. I love the film as a whole. So Rian Johnson's certainly proud of himself on this. If it was me, I'd probably be a little bit more humble, but at the same time, I would also be, very happy that I got to be involved in the Star Wars, universe, and written and directed such a tone of Star Wars that really, it hit me deep. I really enjoyed it, and then there's other people that really enjoyed it. So I think controversy, sparks like credit nonetheless, so to say. I feel like I'm a little bit all over the place today with my thoughts with this sickness. So
no.
Nothing doesn't make sense. Correct me, guys, please, including you, Pete. I'm
following along, and no, I'm really glad that he doubled down on his belief that he made. Did he make the perfect Star Wars film? No, but I don't think he's saying that either. But I know that he's giving himself credit for making a unique Star Wars film, and they gave him the helm and they gave him the role of director to literally direct the movie in which direction he wanted to take it, and that's the direction he took it. So we should respect that as the director of the film. You know what I'm saying? And he definitely respects himself and respects the work he did, and obviously we do too. Now, as far as the Luke being a hermit, like, again, love Mark Hamill to death. I mean, he's a god in my eyes, but I do agree with you that, you know, that's a little short-sighted as far as maybe he's a little too close to the character because he is the character, obviously. But maybe he just didn't realize that. Just think of it this way: who are the two main masters in Luke's life? Obi-Wan and Yoda. And how did he meet both of them? As hermits, hiding.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So why would he himself not think this is the safest path for me to take? You know what I'm saying? Like, that doesn't make any sense. But anyway, I like the movie. I love the movie very much also, and I did not have a problem with it. Was it perfect? Not at all. But was it a great movie? Yes, it was. And, you know, I had no problem with Hermit Luke either. Anyway, that's just my 2 cents.
Yeah, same. Love that movie, and I will always preach and emphasize that. Okay, let's get to some birthdays. We have a laundry list of birthdays this week and a very good array of them, so to say.
Wow. Yeah.
First and foremost, we have Jessica Henwick, born August 30th. She played Jess Tester in The Force Awakens. A lot of you geek fans in general out there might recognize her as Nymeria Stan from Game of Thrones as well as what is her name in Iron Fist? Colleen Wing.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah, Jessica Henwick. She plays one of the X-Wing pilots in The Force Awakens. So I thought that was a really cool Easter egg, so to say, when I was watching The Force Awakens. Next on the list, we have Jack Thompson, born August 31st. He plays Klieg Lars in Attack of the Clones. Fans out there might remember him as Owen Lars's father, the man that actually gets married to Shmi Skywalker.
Okay, that's right.
And then next on the list, a name we've been talking about recently a lot, D. Bradley Baker, August 31st. He voices every single clone in existence in the animated Star Wars universe through Clone Wars, Rebels, and The Bad Batch. Next on the list, we have Ludwig Göransson, September 1st. He is the composer for both the Mandalorian series and the Book of Boba Fett.
Excellent.
Yes, and for people that might be a little bit unfamiliar with his work, he does have an actual laundry list of musical compositions that he's done for other mediums as well. So a really good composer that I look forward to seeing more theme music from in the live action Star Wars universe, because that seems to be the direction they're going. So next on our list, we have Timothy Zahn, September 1st. The fans of the Star Wars book series out there are definitely going to recognize this name. He is both the writer and creator of Thrawn.
Oh, wow.
He wrote the original Thrawn character from the original Thrawn non-canon trilogy. And then he was also brought back to write 3 more books of the Thrawn canon trilogy. And I believe he is also the writer of the Thrawn Ascendancy series, which is just completed a trilogy as well. So
wow,
this guy is heavily vested into the Thrawn character.
Yeah, no shit.
Which we will be talking about because Thrawn is featured in Rebels going forward for season 3. So we still got a while before we get to him, but really looking forward to talking about him. If you guys, any of the listeners out there are not familiar with the character, you're gonna love him.
Yes, he's awesome.
Yeah. And last but certainly not least, we have Kevin Kiner, who is also a composer, but he is the composer for all the Star Wars animated series. Again, Clone Wars, Rebels, and Bad Batch.
Wow.
This is a favorite of mine too, because there's a TikTok I remember that was shared, and they show some kid like walking to school or something, and the guy is approached and he's like, "Hey man, what are you listening to?" And he's like, "Oh, I'm listening to Burying the Dead by Kevin Kiner." And that's actually the song that's playing when Ahsoka's burying the dead clones.
Oh wow.
And they immediately play the song, and fans that are, familiar with it, it's like the first note that's played on the piano, it just immediately hits the feels. You know what song it is.
Yeah.
It's just one note played. And I always think of that TikTok whenever I think of Kevin Kiner. I'm not just that, but I love the music that's in the animated series. I love the Bad Batch theme. I love the Rebels theme. I love the Clone Wars intro. Please play that at my funeral as you guys are closing my casket.
Great. Yeah.
Love his music.
Okay, so happy birthday to all of them. Now, I just wanted to circle back real quick to last episode. We were talking about, oddly enough, some other birthdays from last week. We were talking about the guy that plays AZ. Do you remember us talking about that? The droid from...
Yes.
Okay.
From the Bad Batch.
Right, and I said, I made a comment that when I first saw him, I thought that it was another actor who, like an actual, cinematic actor or whatever, and I couldn't remember his name, but it's just a little side note, but it was in my brain all week. The guy who I thought played him, which of course this means nothing because it's not him, but he sounds just like him, is this guy, an actor named David Costabile. I might be saying that wrong, but the reason I know him is I'm a huge fan of the Breaking Bad universe, and he is in that as he is the other chemist that works with Walter White. His name is Gale. That's the name of the character. And if you listen to that guy's voice and you listen to the guy who voices AZ from Bad Batch, dude, it is exactly the same.
My number is AZ345211896246498721347. His number is CT5385.
Call me Fives.
But 5 is a number.
They range from 39% to 58% pure, except this one, which hovers around 67. You should tell the chemist to check his or her cookware.
That's why it truly fooled me. I thought it was him, and I was like, that's pretty cool, because he was in a show called Breaking Bad, and now he's in the Bad Batch, and just kind of a connection in my brain, but all that means nothing. It means nothing because it's not true. Anyway, I just wanted to circle back. And
you could do that 6 Degrees game where you could somehow connect them to Giancarlo Esposito.
Exactly.
And connect the Mandalorian verse to the Bad Batch through some type of animated character like Katie Sackhoff.
Yeah, exactly.
Bo-Katan, and then connect it to the animated series.
There you go, man. So
we got to do that sometime as a game on here.
That's a good idea. Let's work on that. Okay, so let us move into the actual episode for today. So, Rolly, why don't you hit us with a synopsis?
So in this week's episode, with the rebels in desperate need of a ship with heavy weaponry, Hera seeks out a master engineer who has built a powerful new starfighter prototype.
Yep. So as we said a little while ago, this was a Hera-centric episode. It was completely, basically about her, and it starts off it starts off heavy with the Phoenix Squadron is in communication with the people of Ibar, which is a smaller planet, who are under Imperial control and being poorly treated by the Empire. I mean, to say they're being poorly treated, that's like not really covering it exactly. They're being starved to death, basically. At their desperate request for supplies, Hera initiates a supply run to the Ibar system, only to be confronted by an Imperial blockade led by Agent Callus, who's back. Hera attempts to coordinate a blockade run, but the cargo transport is easily eliminated by the Imperial blockade, leaving Hera to doubt herself as a captain of the Phoenix Squadron. And Hera quickly calls for the squadron to abort the mission and jump into hyperspace. Now, I said it's very heavy because it's one of the first times we see like a complete and total failure, quote unquote, that just washed over Hera's face. Like the way that it was animated, there was this pain in her eyes. And it's, again, I go back to the fact that, again, this is an animated series, but there is so much emotion in the style of the animation, the way that they draw or animate, whatever, that it was able to convey to me as an audience member just watching that there was a truly the sense of utter pain to her core that she lost this transport and thus may have failed all of these people in trying to get their supplies to them. So it was just one of those moments in Rebels that has happened many times in the past, and I'm sure it's going to keep on happening, where through the animation, through just it is conveyed this loss, this feeling of pain and emotion. And I don't know, that maybe I'm going a little too far into that, but it struck me that that's exactly how the show started. So we're going on from there.
Yeah, I don't think you're going too far at all on that. I was thinking the same thing when I saw this part. We haven't seen such failure from the Ghost crew or the Phoenix Squadron yet in general. And I think all of like the entanglements and the close calls that we've seen has all been directly tied to the Ghost crew, and they always like I always say in every episode, right? Oh, the Ghost manages to escape, or they manage to pull off the mission,
right?
And in this episode, right off the bat, it's just like Hera makes a call, but she's making a call now for the Phoenix Squadron, not for the Ghost Crew. So she's putting other people's lives at risk, and sure enough, there's loss of life. And you could see that, as Pete said, you can see it on her face way heavily, and it's just something that clearly she's going to have to overcome, because she's taking on this larger role as part of the Phoenix Squadron now. We kind of got a hint at it when she was working with Fulcrum, but the Ghost Crew is very much operating as its own smaller cell, and now they have a larger army behind them. So a lot of tough decisions for Hera coming up in this series, and this is basically the first of many where it's just not going to go her way, and the Phoenix Squadron's way in general.
Yeah.
So after this failure, they show the Ghost Crew having a meeting with Commander Sato and the rest of the Phoenix Squadron leaders, and Hera immediately suggests that she needs another shot at breaking the blockade, as she is confident she won't fail the next run, which was kind of like a little bit strange to me, because like we said, she does experience such large failure, and you can see it on her face that Hera just kind of almost, I don't want to say disregards, but she knows that the people of Ibar need help.
Yeah.
So her first instinct is, we need to do it again. I can do it. I'm confident in my skills. And you're going to see that confidence, why it's so high, shown as this episode progresses. So when she suggests this, Rex actually has an alternative plan that he thinks would be better. So Rex chimes in and says, I've been in contact with an engineer who has no love for the Empire and who claims to have built a prototype heavy assault starfighter, a blockade buster. And Kanan says, what's the problem? Let's get it. And Rex says, Shipmaster Quarry will only discuss his ship in person on the planet Shantipol. And then some rebel pilots that are in the room chime in and say, Shantipol? Every pilot in the galaxy knows that's a one-way trip. And Kanan volunteers Hera, and he says Hera will go. And Hera says, Kanan, no, I've got to lead the next run on the blockade. And Kanan responds, if that fighter gives us a better chance to help Ibar, we have to get it, and no one else is volunteering to go, but I know you will. So Kanan knows, definitely if it involves some type of starfighter, Hera's the one that needs to be piloting it. Hera, as we've seen so far in Rebels, is portrayed as a great pilot, and again, as the episode progresses, you definitely see that.
Yeah, I mean, definitely, as far as the other pilots saying, like, you can't go to that planet because we know that you're not going to come back. And I found it interesting that that exact moment is when Kanan decided to suggest that, you know, his girl goes for him, or goes, you know, on that trip, because he knows, you know, she's got the skills to handle it.
Yeah, absolutely. So right after that scene, they show the Ghost head directly to Shantipol, because, you know, the people of Ibar are suffering. They need to get going as getting this prototype as quickly as possible. So the Ghost heads to Shantipol with Hera in doubt about Kanan's decision. So we have another interaction between Hera and Kanan, and Hera says, I can't believe you volunteered me for this reckless mission. After what happened, the fleet needs me now more than ever. And Kanan goes, true, the fleet needs a solution, but one that neither you nor Agent Callus is able to see. And Hera responds, oh, are we talking in riddles now? Is that it? And Kanan goes, fine. You want me to spell it out for you? We can't beat that blockade. Not without a better ship, with better firepower, and the best pilot at the controls. And Hera responds, even if the ship turns out to be everything we hope it is, I still might not make it back in time to help. And Kanan goes, then you better hurry. So Hera, Zeb, and Sabine get on the Phantom and head to the Shantipol surface, while Kanan, Ezra, and Chopper take the Ghost to go pick up more supplies. So as the Phantom begins to descend on Shantipol, Hera's explaining to Zeb and Sabine that she did some research as to why it is so hard to land on the planet. Again, this is in reference to those pilots saying anybody who goes to Shantipol knows it's a one-way trip. There's no coming back.
Right.
So she explains to the team that the upper atmosphere, for whatever reason, shuts off the power of every ship, which then leads to the ship being able to no longer fly to the surface, but fall. So as soon as she says this, Zeb and Sabine are freaking out. Like, well, then what the heck are we doing? Like, like how are we going to land, you know, on this planet if we're just going to fall onto it? Like, where's the planning in that? So Hera clearly doesn't have, you know, an explanation. Hera's only explanation is, I'm a pilot. Like, if anybody can do it, I can do it. And that's why Kanan volunteered her for the trip, because he knows if anybody in the fleet can do it, it's just Hera and Hera only.
Right.
So fortunately, through this chaotic free fall that they're going through as they're trying to land, Hera manages to land the falling Phantom onto the landing platform at which she was aiming for. And in the process of her falling, they see all these several crashed ships just scattered all over the place. So clearly, this has been attempted. I don't know why it's been attempted, but clearly there's been ships that have tried to land on this planet, and it's just like exactly as those pilots said, it's a one-way trip. The ship just crashes and it's game over. So it's a really cool scene because they show the Phantom land on this incredibly small platform, and the Phantom kind of like lands and skids all the way to the edge, and it starts tipping over, and Hera's like notices that all the weight there's too much weight in the front of the Phantom, so she yells at Zeb, who's like this huge creature. She's like, Zeb, get to the back of the ship so you can rebalance it and we can like not tip over. So as the ship's tilting back over towards the platform, this machine comes in and pulls it, and this is one of like the machines that Quarry has. This is where Quarry is, the shipmaster that Rex has been in contact with. So when they're pulled back onto the platform, the team kind of like falls out of the Phantom, and they're immediately greeted by Quarry. So Hera says, "You're Quarry, right? Captain Rex sent us." And Quarry responds, "You're here about my ship." And Hera goes, "Any landing you can walk away from is a good one," referring to the Phantom that just literally crash landed onto the platform. And Quarry goes, "After a good landing, you can still fly the ship." And Hera goes, "Yeah, this is a terrible place for ships." And Quarry says, "But the perfect place to test them. If it can fly here, it can fly anywhere. And it's also the last place the Empire would look. Come, let's get out of this wind." So Quarry, who is this Mon Calamari, which I find kind of funny. I probably should have done a little bit of research onto that, because we know from the movies that the Mon Calamari, Admiral Akbar to be specific, these are military leaders. They're always a high-ranking race.
I mean,
I don't know what the
type of creature or whatever being of. Yeah, they all look kind of like shrimp, like some sort of a
squid or shrimp, or something, some sort of they're a water creature,
right.
Yeah, so I thought that in this case, I was thinking about the movies in that there must be some type of like higher level intellect of some form in this race, because every time we see them show up, they're like military strategists, and in this guy's case, he's not a military strategist, but he is a shipmaster,
an engineer,
and we're gonna see that he's like a high level thinking engineer. He's developed something that doesn't exist. This is brand new.
Right.
So Quarry leads the team inside the hangar, and he proceeds to show off his prototype to them. And this is a really cool scene because we're introduced to a starship that movie viewers are going to recognize as the B-Wing. And it's a starship that I was always curious about when I would watch the original trilogy. I didn't understand the ship. I understood the X-Wing, I understood the Y-Wing, I somewhat understood the A-Wings, but you look at the B-Wing and I don't know about you guys, but I just never understood it. Like, how does it work? Why is it designed that way? And the beauty of this Rebels episode is that I got all those questions answered in this one. This is one of my favorite episodes. So Quarry shows off his B-Wing, and he goes, "There she is. What do you think? I call it the Blade Wing." Also, another fun fact, because I do not believe that the B-Wing was originally intended B-Wing for Blade Wing. So I think that this is actually Rebels introducing this factoid into Star Wars canon.
It's never been referred to as the Blade Wing before.
Correct. I think, and that was another question I always had when I would watch the trilogy, like B-Wing, like, okay, the Y-Wing looks like a Y, the X-Wing looks like an X. Why is this one called the B-Wing?
Right.
And the same for the A-Wing. It kind of had like that A shape. So anyways, not to get too far off track. So Zeb gives off the same reaction I did when I saw the ship in the movies. He's like, that's a ship? Is it upside down? And Sabine goes, "Looks like it's been through a garbage masher." And Quarry goes, "This is one of my most advanced designs. Fast, agile, a narrow attack profile, and it packs a punch. High intensity blasters, ion cannons, and proton torpedoes." And Hera's just in awe. As the scene's progressing, like Zeb and Sabine don't get it. They're like, "What is this?" But Hera, the whole time, when you see her face, she's just like in awe of what she's looking at. She knows like this is something cutting edge.
Yeah.
This is something that's instantly going to help our cause. So Hera responds, "Great, I can't wait to take it out. The fleet really needs this." And Quarry goes, "The fleet, huh? What makes you think she's just yours for the taking?" So right away we get some doubt. the team is confused as to, why are we here if it wasn't intended for us to get this ship. So they show the team kind of attempting to fix the Phantom because it looks like they're gonna leave. Like they showed up for nothing.
Right.
But the Phantom unfortunately has sustained too much damage and is deemed unrepairable with the parts that they have on board. So interestingly enough, Corey gives the rebels the parts they need along with the assistance of his personal astromech droid so that they can repair the Phantom. And Hera, who's still confused about Corey not letting her fly his ship, questions him a little bit about it. And she goes, "Look, if I don't fly your ship, who will?" And Corey responds, "I've waited a long time for the right pilot. I can wait longer." I don't quite understand Corey's hesitancy here to at least allow Hera to attempt to fly it. I think my gut feeling is that when she mentioned the fleet, I think it's something along the lines of he's not necessarily looking to get involved in a war. So what did you think when you...
Well, I mean, now that you're posing that question, I guess if I'm thinking about it now, maybe he is not to say neutral as far as what side he's on, because obviously if you're not with the Empire, you're against the Empire. But maybe it's kind of one of those feelings of he knows he created something special, and she right away wanted to co-opt it to become a military vehicle, and he knows that maybe something he created to be out of love and passion and whatever is he can't fathom the idea of it destroying lives, possibly. I mean, maybe that was his first thought. I
think you're right. I'm remembering a feature dialogue scene that we're going to go over, and I think that he answers the question in there. For me, it was just a little bit hidden. Maybe it's just because I'm off today. But yeah, I think you nailed it on the head with that one. So that scene cuts, and we cut to a scene where they show Callus on the Imperial light cruiser, still on the Imperial blockade that's set up in front of Ibar. And he's talking to an officer on the HoloNet comms. And the officer tells him, "We have cut all remaining rations from the Ibarian people. There are a few holdouts in the mountains who have been in contact with the rebel fleet." And Callus responds to him, "Have no fear, Commander. Their spirit will break soon." The officer says, "What of the rebel fleet?" And Callus responds, "Oh, they will return. They can't resist helping people in need, which will be the last mistake they make." So immediately after this, we cut back to Shantipol again. And this time they show Corey helping Hera with the Phantom repairs personally. And Hera, here we have some more dialogue, and Hera tells him, "You didn't have to drag us all the way out here. Could have just transmitted the plans to Rex." And Corey says, "Why would I hand over my ship to just any pilot?" And Hera goes, "Would any pilot risk their life to come to this death trap?" And Corey says, "Perhaps not. So why did you?" And Hera says, "I was a little girl when the Clone War came to Ryloth. My mother hid us below ground, but I'd peek out when the Republic ships flew over as they fought to liberate my world. I dreamt of nothing more than to be up there with them." And Corey says, "So you left your family to fight?" And Hera goes, "I left my family so that I could fly." And Corey says, "As a combat pilot." And that's the line that I'm referring to that I think you nailed on the head, that she wants to fly his ship, and he's looking at it as, "You're looking to misuse my ship as a, he knows he made a starfighter, but as a weapon of death, I guess." So Hera says, "If we want freedom, we must make difficult choices. I chose to leave my family. I chose to learn to fly. And then I chose to use that ability to help others in need. But it's all rooted in something I can't explain, a need to be up there. Because even when there are explosions all around me and things are at their worst, I feel like I'm at my best." And Corey goes, "We've wasted enough time. There are beings in need of help, and my ship is in need of a pilot." So this is a really cool scene because Hera, if you guys remember Hera from The Bad Batch, if you've seen The Bad Batch, they show a younger version of Hera, and it's a really cool opening scene to that episode. I wish I remember the name of it so I could point you guys in the exact right direction to rewatch it. But at the beginning of that episode, they actually show Hera just kind of laying out in the fields of Ryloth with Chopper, and she's looking up at birds as they're flying, because Hera at that point in The Bad Batch is not a pilot, but she dreams of being a pilot. And I love the connection here to this Rebels episode, because this scene where she's explaining that it doesn't matter if explosions are all around me and things are at their worst. I feel like I'm at my best. It's the same thing. She's looking up at the sky and she's looking at these birds or these creatures that are flying above Shantipole. So it was a really cool parallel. I totally did not even make that connection until I rewatched it again. But Hera, is a pilot. She loves being in the air. It just so happens that she's doing things for the right cause because she's a good person, right? But she always looks at situations purely as I'm a pilot before I am a rebel leader or a fighter, however you want to word it. And those words that she uses touches Corey, because Corey, like you said, he doesn't just want to give his ship to a combat pilot. He wants to give his ship so that a true pilot at heart can showcase everything that it has to offer. So, right. Just with those lines alone from Hera, he instantly convinces him she's the right person. I need to let her fly it. So after that, the scene cuts to Kanan and Ezra on the Ghost loading the new batch of supplies, and Hera explains to Kanan that he doesn't understand why they're loading the Ghost with food supplies. Kanan explains that he thought Hera would be back by now, but there wasn't a guarantee she'd ever be back in time, so they're going to make the run without her. Ezra, however, argues that they will make the Ghost the primary target, that would make the Ghost the primary target for the Empire, since they're going to see that the Ghost is the one carrying the supplies. But Kanan argues that, we don't really have a choice. They have to get the supplies to the people of Ibar. Mm-hmm. So Ezra's clearly worried here because it's just him and Kanan. Kanan is not a pilot. Kanan's a Jedi through and through, but if anybody could somehow pull off the run on the Ghost, it was going to be Hera, but Hera's not with them. So Ezra's just not convinced that this is the right play to make. But Kanan knows, we don't have a choice. The people desperately need the help. They're at their breaking point. We have to do what has to be done. And I love this scene because, as you guys remember, so far in the season, we've seen Kanan just reluctant to be part of the Phoenix Squadron. And here, now that Hera's out, he's taking a role. He's taking responsibility for his role to, I guess, somewhat replace her in the Phoenix Squadron. Hey, I'm not the best pilot, but I know what needs to be done.
Right.
So we do start seeing some growth finally, as I guess, from Kanan being a team player in the Phoenix Squadron here. I think this is kind of the first time that is showcased. So cutting back to Shantipole, they show Hera prepared to fly the B-Wing prototype for the first time. And then we cut to a really funny scene where Sabine and Zeb, who are watching from the platform with Corey, they proceed to ask Corey how many times he's piloted the ship. And he tells them that he doesn't fly because it's too dangerous, but that in theory, the prototype should fly. Sure. So Zeb and Sabine just completely start freaking out and tell, I think Zeb tells them, if this doesn't work, I'm going to push you off the ledge also. Yeah. So as soon as he says that, Hera takes off, and it seems like it takes off well, but then the B-Wing just kind of falls off the ledge exactly like Zeb just finished saying that it would. But of course, as soon as it falls off, seconds later, you just see the B-Wing swoosh past the screen into the air, and Hera proceeds to take it onto this thrill ride, so to say. Right. She's just showcasing her skills as a pilot, even though this is a brand new ship that she's flying. So I don't know if you were a fan of that movie, How to Train Your Dragon, Pete.
Yes, I like it.
Yeah, this scene actually reminded me of the first time when he's flying Toothless, the dragon, and So I thought it was a really cool scene. That scene I always remember it because I love the soundtrack for that movie also. And I love that soundtrack. I get what it's called. That specific song was really cool. The scene reminded me of it. So Hera's showing the maneuverability skills of the ship, but then she also says, okay, time to test the weapons package. So she's shooting it, the individual blasters. The B-Wing kind of has these wings that extend, and it kind of makes a T shape. Mm-hmm. So the blasters are shooting out of there, and she's shooting I believe at those abandoned ships. She tells Corey I wish your ship packed a little bit more firepower. So he tells her, we'll pull the lever that's next to you and then you'll see what's up. So when she does it, there's this combined attack that the B-Wing does, to where the three blasters that they individually shoot from, they now combine together to take one massive blast, right? Which was really cool.
Looks similar to when the Death Star fires it from 5 different or 6 different points, and then it shoots one main. Yeah, it's kind of like that.
Yeah, it's very similar to that, and it just creates this one single powerful blast. Do you remember if they showed the B-Wings doing that in the original trilogy?
I don't. I can't remember that. It looked fresh when I saw it right now in this episode, so I don't think so.
So then they show Hera land back onto the platform. She's finished her prototype test run, and she tells Corey, your ship certainly has the firepower we need, but the targeting system could use some work. And Sabine immediately chimes in. Anytime there's mention of weapons, she goes, I've got some ideas. And Corey goes, no, that's my ship, young one. Just what do you think you're doing? And then I love this line from Sabine. She goes, never get between a Mandalorian and a weapons package. And I mean, if I've learned anything about Mandalorians between the new, the Mandalorian series, the Darksaber is just like, dude, who has the coolest armor? Who has the coolest weapons? Dude, come on. The Mandalorians. The Mandalorians.
Din Djarin said it perfectly. He said, weapons are my religion. So,
Yeah, it's easily probably the coolest race, armor, weapon set in the galaxy. It's not even close. So now that they're successful with this prototype run, they know that they're going to be able to help the Phoenix Squadron pull off this mission. So Hera gets on the comms with Kanan and explains to him how the B-Wing is going to be a great addition to the rebellion. Kanan informs her that the Ibarian people are at their breaking point and Commander Sato has ordered the second blockade run. Hera tells the team that they need to get back with the Phoenix Squadron with the new prototype ship to assist, but the hyperdrive on the prototype was fried during the energy drain from the multi-cannon firing system. Corey explains that it's a shame he installed the other spare hyperdrive on the Phantom because he doesn't like seeing ships that can't fly far, so he upgraded. Hera, at this information, ecstatically tells him that answers their problem, even though he is unsure about what she means. So basically, Corey, the Phantom didn't have a hyperdrive at this point, and Corey, for whatever reason, took it upon himself to add one. So that kind of triggered some thinking on Hera's part, and she knows exactly how to address the situation with the B-Wing's hyperdrive not working. And that's basically that she's going to tow it, or not tow it, but they're going to attach the B-Wing to the Phantom, and they're just going to use the Phantom's hyperdrive to get the B-Wing to the blockade run.
Right.
So that scene cuts, and we cut to the scene where Kanan and the Phoenix Squadron are going to begin their blockade run, which quickly looks like it's about to be a failure, the same as the first time, only this time with the Ghost being the victim. So fortunately, Hera swoops in just in time on the B-Wing prototype being towed by the now upgraded Phantom, and Hera begins to take the lead on the blockade run, using the multi-cannon firing system to take down an Imperial light cruiser, breaking the blockade and allowing the Ghost to get the supplies to the Ibarians. The Ibarians thank the Phoenix Squadron for saving them as the squadron jumps to hyperspace to escape the Empire, successfully completing their mission. So here we get to the end of the episode, and this is a really cool scene. I loved seeing this. After regrouping with the Phoenix Squadron, the Ghost crew, along with Corey, meet with Commander Sato. And Commander Sato says, it seems Senator Organa has found a ship works sympathetic to our cause and willing to manufacture more of these B-Wings in secret. And Corey responds, Project Shantipole will continue under my supervision, of course. There are many adjustments that need to be made. And Hera tells Corey, thanks to you and your ship, we helped many people today. And Corey responds, I just hammered it together, young pilot. You made it soar. And Commander Sato approaches Hera and tells her, indeed, your heroics are unparalleled, Captain Syndulla. That is why I agree with Kanan's recommendation. And Hera goes, your recommendation? What have you done now? And Kanan goes, just listen to the commander. Yeah. And Commander Sato tells her, you are to be promoted to Phoenix Leader. Our fighter pilots will benefit greatly from your expertise. And Kanan, or the Phoenix Squadron, the Ghost crew, along with Sato, proceed to salute Hera, and Hera salutes back, and Kanan says, good job, Captain Hera. And that's how the episode ends.
Excellent little button at the end to, she came full circle from where it started to where it ended. Yes, she lost the first transport, and she lost some, members of her squadron, but she learned something throughout the way that she really is the shit when it comes to being a pilot. She is she's, if not the best, she's one of the best, and this proved it this episode. And at the end, she was able to come in and redeem herself, at least to herself, because the rest of the squad didn't necessarily see her as a failure, but within herself, she felt like she failed. So she had to redeem herself. She did, and now she was promoted to Phoenix squad leader. So that was a hell of a way to end it. And I really like that Kanan, didn't call her Captain Syndulla. He called her Captain Hera, which was a little bit more personable because of their connection and whatnot.
Yeah.
So that was cool.
You know what else I thought of when I was watching this episode, Pete? I was thinking of how you were talking about how that, I forget what it's called, Disney Infinity, the toy set that didn't have Hera.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, man, what were they thinking?
Exactly. It really, that still pisses me off. But when I was looking that up those few episodes ago, there's a couple of people like on Etsy who have these 3D printers, and they've created kind of like their own version. It's just unpainted, but I'm not really good at painting miniatures, so I might just decide to get it, and I might find somebody who is good at that. So just to kind of complete my set. But anyway, that brings us to the end of the episode of Star Wars Rebels. And that was, of course, episode 7, and it was called Wings of the Master. Great episode. The next episode we'll be talking about is Season 2, Episode 8. It's called Blood Sisters, but please keep in mind, if you're looking for it next week, you will not find it. In fact, you're not going to find it for 2 weeks. That episode will drop September 30th, Friday, September 30th. That's when we're planned, because as we said earlier, your hosts are taking a vacation for 2 weeks. So that's well-deserved. We've done, 23 episodes in a row now? 23 weeks in a row? So I think we've earned a little bit of a break.
Yeah, I agree. And before we go, just to kind of give you guys a little hint at the future, if you love this episode as much as I did, we're going to start seeing like little tidbits that tie into the original trilogy, because of course Rebels takes place during that time frame. But you're going to start seeing stuff like this where it's like, oh, that explains that, or this explains that, or oh, look, it's such and such person from the original trilogy. Spoiler alert. And it I remember when I was watching Rebels for the first time, that really added to it for me. So just wanted to give you guys a heads up of what's to come.
Excellent. Okay, then, guys, that brings us to the end of this episode of Good Morning Lothal, the unofficial Star Wars Rebels podcast. Now, remember, you're not going to see us for 2 weeks, but please come back, keep it locked here, because we will be back Friday, September 30th. But until then, if there's nothing else, Rolly, then this has been your host, Pete Salas, along with
Rolando Zamora,
saying, may the Force be with y'all always. Goodbye from Lothal.